Pre-season testing for the 2025 Formula 1 season has given us a solid 24 hours of running to base our 2025 season predictions on. I'm going to give my predictions later on, just before the Australian Grand Prix starts in a couple of weeks' time. But I wanted to talk about the pecking order in Formula 1, the order at which the cars are in terms of their overall performance. And this is something that we see fluctuate throughout a season. Take Red Bull at the start of last season, were incredibly fast, the absolute dominant of the field, and it wasn't that long until they were the third or fourth fastest car on the grid, and then they ended it arguably with the third, maybe the second, some people maybe said the third fastest car on the grid by the end of last season. But how are the cars looking so far this season? Well, the first thing that's got to be noted really is the reliability. I mean, for pre-season testing, where the teams are actually looking to try and find faults with the cars, to try and find some kind of improvement that is possible. Obviously, they do things such as the chassis changes, the aerodynamic changes, tyre settings, fuel settings, engine settings. That is all the kind of things that they do test as well. But ultimately, they are looking to, in a sense, break the cars. They are looking to push them to the absolute limits. And that is something that we didn't really see that much during this testing. There weren't that many cars that were going for fast qualifying laps. A lot of them doing what we call sandbagging, i.e. trying to actually hide the true performance of these cars. A lot of long runs, a lot of high fuel runs. So many laps being completed. I mean, how many laps did we get for some of the teams? I mean, we got over 450 laps for some of these teams being completed. And even Red Bull and Aston Martin did over 300 laps throughout the weekend as a whole. I mean, the week as a whole, I should say. I mean, an incredible amount of laps being done. For reference, a Grand Prix distance around Bahrain, I think, is 58 laps. So you're talking about every team doing roughly 6 race distances over the running, if not even more, if not even touching 8 or 9 Grand Prix distances in 3 days of testing, which is just absolutely incredible, really. But we didn't see many reliability issues. I don't think we saw a single car stopped out on track for a mechanical issue. The main kind of stoppages we had were for the power going out on the first day, and then I think on day 3 was it the final day where we had a coach just being on the track for some reason. I mean, that's just incredible stuff, really. I mean, not on the track itself, but near the track. It shouldn't have been there. So yeah, really odd kind of happenings really with that. So we didn't really see many issues in terms of reliability. So I definitely foresee us having a lot of races where all 20 cars finish the race that start it. I don't think that's out of the realms of possibility at all. I mean, we're going to probably see more in 2025 than we did the previous year. The regulations have remained static now for like 4 years, so we're really late in the cycle. This is the final year of this cycle of regulations before we go to the new ones in 2026. So something to note is that I definitely expect all of these cars to have incredible reliability throughout the season. Most of the retirements will be because of damage, crashes, stuff like that, kind of pit stop mishaps. I don't foresee many reliability issues for any of the drivers at all. I don't see that being a problem really throughout the season. We're going to see drivers with 1 or 2 mechanical failures throughout the campaign, if that really. It's going to be that good. In terms of overall pace, I mean, there's a few ways you can look at it. I mean, the only 2 teams that were able to beat their best qualifying time from 2024 Bahrain Grand Prix were Alpine and Williams. And Williams set the fastest time of them all, I believe. I believe it was Carlos Sainz on the final day. So you can look at that and think, oh, Alpine and Williams, they're some of the favourites. But it's not that simple. It's not that simple. I mean, you have to look at Alpine with a big pinch of salt, because they are a team that are very much underperforming and need good press. They need good PR. Same with Williams to an extent as well. So you can definitely argue that they did those times to be headline grabbers, basically, and they're not the true performance of the cars. I think the top runners are still going to be the likes of McLaren, Red Bull, and Ferrari as well. Hamilton being a little despondent on his final day of testing compared to what he was at the start. Maybe Ferrari quite there. Maybe you can read something into that. Maybe it's Hamilton just playing poker face. It's hard to tell. But honestly, the improvements in lap time overall, I mean, we look at the qualifying times, which I've got here, the lap times in terms of the fastest overall times, compared to testing the previous year. Alpine are a solid 2 seconds faster than they were in 2024. Williams 1.6. And then you've got the likes of Red Bull, McLaren, Haas, Aston Martin all around a second. Mercedes 3/4 of a second. Ferrari half a second. Sauber and the Racing Bulls less than half a second. So I would say a lot of confidence given their predicament at the moment. I would say that's probably the slowest car on the grid still by some decent distance. I think Aston Martin are really going to struggle. I really do. I think they're going to be in that kind of lower midfield. I mean, I'm going to separate this into the front runners, upper midfield, lower midfield, and the back markers. The back markers being solely the Saubers. They're the only ones I see being regularly at the back of the field. I think the lower midfield, you're going to get the likes of Aston Martin, the Racing Bulls, and I don't know, I think Haas will be a bit better. I think if we go into the upper midfield, I'd say that Haas, Williams will probably be in there. I think they've made big gains. Alpine should be up to decent gains as well. I think those guys are going to kind of be in and around there. And then the front runners, I would say that Mercedes are probably fourth fastest still. I don't see that changing really. Ferrari maybe third. I'll be honest, the testing has not filled me a lot of confidence with Ferrari. It looks as though Red Bull and McLaren are quite equal. I don't think there's going to be much between them. So, honestly, I would say the order. My personal prediction, I'm going to absolutely hate saying this, but this is just my thing. And like I said, at the end of the day, it is very difficult to judge this. They're not giving away their hand. They are playing poker face. They are all playing poker at 200 miles an hour. They are not wanting to show their hand, and they don't do that. And it's so difficult to read as to what their actual times is. And on top of that as well, one thing to note as well is the fact that Bahrain was so unrepresentative in terms of the weather. It rained during that weekend. It was cold. It is not like we're going to see throughout the rest of the season. The temperatures around all of the tracks, with the exceptions of maybe Spa, Silverstone, Las Vegas, we're going to see a lot higher track temperatures and a lot less wind conditions. Very windy in Bahrain too, something that's a characteristic of that circuit. So very unrepresentative in a sense. But honestly, I'll hang my hat on it. I will go with this. You're going to quote this after the first round. It's not my bold predictions. I'll do them another time. But I will say that the order, in my unprofessional, qualified, an engineer by trade, so qualified opinion, shall we say, and an F1 journalist too, of course. I would say that McLaren are fastest, closely followed by Red Bull. Ferrari a little bit off of that. Mercedes a good chunk of time behind in fourth. Fifth, Alpine. Sixth, Haas. Seventh, Williams. Eighth, Aston Martin. Ninth, Racing Bulls. 10th, Sauber. That is my prediction. We will see that. Be very wrong, no doubt. But it's so unpredictable and so close. Honestly, it's going to be a fantastic season we've got coming up. But guys, let me know your predictions. What do you think the pecking order is after testing? And of course, something else to bear in mind as well, all the findings from testing, they will be used to make grades for the cars, and the cars that we will see in Australia will be different. They will be different to the cars we saw in testing. So that's another factor to get into mind as well. The overall order can shift a little bit just based on that too. So your thoughts in the comments below, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you found that insightful in terms of what is testing and how it works and what we can kind of expect. Expect the unexpected. It's very difficult to predict. Like, share, comment, subscribe as always if you want to see more content like this on the F1Chronicle.com. If you want to support some more, become an F1 legend, do head over to our Patreon. Join us on Substack as well. If you're on Substack, we are the biggest Formula One newsletter in the world on Substack. And of course, have a great week ahead, guys. Hope we have some fantastic racing action in a couple of weeks' time down under when we head to Melbourne, Australia. And see you soon, guys. Thanks for all your support as well. We just hit 9,000 subscribers. I'm aiming for 10,000 by the start of the season. It's a big ask. Don't see us doing it personally. I think it's a big ask, but we'll get there eventually thanks to your support. Big love, guys. See you very soon.